So, digital transformation success is a continuous journey. Don't build something, leave it for a few years because you think you're successful at it, and be in the same situation you're in today. Oh, no, technology's moved on, everybody's superseding me, everybody's now using these new feature functionality. It's really important that you have your phase 1, 2, and 3. Engage your ops. Let your ops people live and breathe the sales process. I came from a sales and marketing and product development background, so I didn't just look at operations purely from my little vacuum. You've got to get the same people in the room, otherwise they will not learn other perspectives and they won't go outside of their own. So it's a difficult group to manage when you get them all in, but once they get used to each other, it's a lot better. So organizational mindset, I always say this: unsuccessful people will base their decisions on their current situation. I can't do it because of X, Y, Z, this is all happening. Base your decisions on where you want to be. I want to be on a new platform, faster sales cycle, everybody on a 1 price book, not 5 price books. I want finance to be getting invoices out quicker, and we want to collect revenue. There are objectives. Keep people focused on that is the most important thing that I would say. So if you want to become the agent of change in your business and you want to get your salespeople excited, I presented our new Salesforce to our sales team, our SKO, this concept of how they would sell differently, how the system and their process and the language is all going to be the same. I had the most excited sales team calling me, going, how do we do it, how do we do it, how do we do it? I had an ops team getting involved, going, I didn't realize I didn't do that. Hopefully finance, I've still got some work to do there, but I'm planning on kind of pushing it. So, design a clear strategy that is understood by your organization. And that will only be if the process, people, and systems are on the same page. Otherwise, you'll tell them one thing, they'll go on the system, and it'll say something else. You'll have lost them straight away. Keep everyone aligned. Build a roadmap, keep it moving. Don't fall behind. Small, minimal viable product, change, iterate. And remember, when systems change, people need to change with them. So take people on the journey with you. So does anyone have any questions for me?
How's your Salesforce cadence been then since launch? Have they practiced what?
Yeah, it was. Adoption was the first rollout was really painful, so don't expect to put a whole sales team. They went home on Friday on Salesforce Classic. They came in on Monday on Salesforce Lightning, and I had finance coming on the platform, as well as sales, as well as legal. So it was very painful, and a lot of it because when they showed up to sales training, like I said, they're on their mobile phones. Or as the best sales guys, like, I don't need to, I'll put my spreadsheet because I'm the top sales guy, I don't need to use Salesforce. And I'm like, yeah, you do. I'm bursting that little bubble that you've got. So yeah, by 3 months, everybody was up and running on the new system, and we were talking about phase 2. We were talking about implementing guided selling and CPQ, because we'd learned more around what we were doing. Trying to implement something like guided selling in phase 1, I didn't know enough. I'd come up with some weird little setup, but it wouldn't be right. So for me, about 3 months, it will be painful. They will complain because it's new, but they had a big change because Classic to Lightning and Salesforce CPQ was a big step for us. But then they started to really embrace it. And I saw a big change, and I actually got my legal team on Salesforce, which was, they always did it via Outlook. They send the contracts and the redlining process, but bringing the legal team into Salesforce was a big step. But we had a tool called Action Grid that made it look like an Excel spreadsheet, which was great because then it just looked like something they were familiar with. They didn't have to learn Salesforce. So little tips and tricks your solution engineers should be able to work with you if you kind of to help adoption that little bit easier.
And has there been any top or bottom line benefit as a result of it, or is it still?
The biggest thing I think was transparency on reporting and the speed of the sales cycle. So getting the contracts out faster was so much easier. We had visibility on what was standard and non-standard clauses, because that was a big issue for us, as you know. It took about a year to take everybody onto the new contract framework because of GDPR, because by the time we renewed everybody into the cycle. But once it over, to me, was transparency on and visibility on data, spending more time talking about the data of what we should be doing about it, not what was the right numbers. So, and cross-team working. They were the things that were the fundamental changes. It was pain at the beginning, but it became very normal to have a cross-team working view on things. So they were the biggest things for me.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Sorry. You spoke about starting with strategy, of course, and then we hear that culture eats strategy for lunch. So should we really start with culture?
To me, the way the culture works, culture happens, it's about including people. A lot of people thought I was automating their jobs. In a way, I was. I had 5 people sending invoices out, and I was going to automate the whole thing. So people's first reaction around culture is, what does this mean for me? So when I said you look at the process and you bring the people in, you're doing culture there. Because you're asking them, what do you do today? Where are your challenges? I'm mapping out what I think we should do. By including people in the decision is vital. Now, the other part of it is around the culture piece. In that piece, you could say, at the moment, you spend a lot of your time doing this. They can see you're automating it. You need to change yourself from being a reactive organization into being a proactive organization. So what we want to do with you is we want you to now spend more time on this. So you need to advance in who you are as a person. Because otherwise this job has been automated in every organization probably across the globe. So you need to understand that you need to keep up and develop your skill set and not hold the company back because you're worried about it. So the culture and strategy to me goes kind of hand in hand, because you can't define your strategy without doing it. Don't just speak to the management, speak to the front line. I learned so much. The gap between what management think is happening to what's actually happening is vast. So the culture and the strategy go front line, include people, but be aware of what they might be thinking and get them to think about where they can go rather than what they're losing. And that's the culture shift.
How did you tie that to your purpose?
Sorry?
How do you tie that to your purpose? Did it align with the purpose of the organization overall? Or?
So when we started, so the first step we did was we talked about reviewing the business and who the business was. So when we're looking at the business, so we were now becoming a marketing cloud. We weren't just email. So I was looking at going, okay, so how does that do in our marketing positioning? How does that look in the system? Do I have the SKUs and the framework that matches that? How does that flow in, the proposal documents? Are we using the same language in proposals, in quotes, in the systems? So the idea of what it is that you're always pulling the whole piece together of who the exec want the business to be and what their primary objective is. My biggest challenge with sales team is they'll say, we want better cross-sell or we want more upsell. But they never actually tell the people how. So the sales team got excited when I did SKO because we talked about how. We talked about we're going to build a maturity curve of 4 products, and here's the questions you're going to ask. So I was working with BDRs on how to change and qualify me for 3 products and not 1 without the customer knowing, and they needed to do it in under 3 minutes. So when you're mapping it back to the business, you're starting with who the business wants to be, what you sell, and where you stand in the market. And then you're going to look at how you first touch base a client. What questions do you ask? Are those questions in Salesforce? Are you recording the answers in Salesforce? How easy is it for someone who's a BDR that's probably 10 layers down from the top sales guy to understand the products and questions he needs to ask? And how does that then translate over to the TM? So what information does he collect to then pass to the next person so the client doesn't get asked the same questions? So your sales training, your system, and everything is all linked up based on we want to sell 3 products, not 1. So you need to ask these set of questions. You're at the high level, you're qualifying. When you pass it over, if they answer yes, 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 then you engage the TM. Now TM, you're going to ask the next set of deeper questions. Don't upset my client, they haven't got time, they're busy. They're going to speak to our competitor probably later the same day. So you need to get there faster. So a lot of that was where BDRs and salespeople, when I worked at SKO, got more excited about it because they thought, now I know my role and where I sit, but I also know the end-to-end journey. Also what happened was I had a few BDRs that when they understood what other teams did, there's a few of them that would be better solution engineers than BDRs. Because their mindset and the way they quiz questions and how they love the product and how they love to solutionize was better than somebody was doing it. So with the culture bit and the map and the business bit is, execs, what do you want? More cross-sell. We don't sell enough. We've continued to stay one product. Even though we bought other businesses and we're now a bigger product, we're not selling the new lines. Okay, grow away, execs. Let me go down to your front line. But I need to know, because you know as I walk out, the BDRs will probably change in a quarter. It's a high turnover role. Salespeople change. But by having the system, the questions they should ask in the system, they understood how the handover process, By doing that, simplification of the process means the business understood the end-to-end process and the role they played and where they were accountable. Accountability is really important. And if people don't know where they're accountable, that's where the arguments can start. Like I said, my TMs were upset with my BDRs. My customer success were upset with the BDRs for the same reason. Because they didn't actually understand the role they played. So for me, your business model is the first starting place. What do we sell? Who are we? And who are we trying to be? Okay, on the customer journey, I touch the customer base for the first time. How does that translate across into it? And make sure it's in your CRM, because you're not learning. Because we'll know, I got all the BDRs together and we did a session where they wrote the questions. And I was like, okay, we're going to put it in. And in quarter 2, I'm coming back and we're going to analyze the information back on Salesforce to see how right we were. Because I guarantee you we'll get it wrong. And they're excited about it. Now, they'll happily put the information in Salesforce because they're part of the committee that when I bring people back to say, hey, guess what? We thought people were going to say that. What did we know? So for me, the culture transformation is let your front line have a say. Because if they're excited about the sales process and they feel part of the organization and not being told what to do, you'll get so much out of them. I had a very different SKO this year than I had when I first came in. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question a little bit. It's very hard to build the whole pieces together and connect them. Get a strong operations person, but make sure they get the sales cycle and the sales psyche and get finance in. They do keep you on check. They do keep you on check. Any other questions? Okay. All right, well, thank you. I hope that was...